Hello class. I would like to begin this video by apologizing for not being able to write this post in a discussion. Due to my surgery last week, I am finding it very difficult, practically impossible to write anything on a keyboard. So I figured to at least participate in the class, it would be best if I did something. So I went ahead and made this video. This video is in response to the discussion post for Model 7 for CRM 701. My responses to this, well, let me just set the foundation of what we're discussing. We were asked to rank who we believe is most important given a research study concerning lung cancer patients, and we have to rank either the investigators, the MRI investigators, statisticians, and participants, 1 to 4, 1 being the most deserving of being blinded or most necessary to be blinded, and 4 being the least necessary. And my response to this would be as follows. I think the most important person or most important people that would need to be blinded in this research study would be the investigators and the clinical staff, i.e., coordinators, pharmacists, clinical nurses, etc. I think that it's imperative that they are blinded more than anybody else because they're the ones that are administering treatment. They're the ones that work with the patients on a daily basis, and they're the ones that most likely would be influenced by bias. So by blinding them, we can remove that, maybe not outright, but we could remove a good portion of the propensity for bias. So I would say that investigators and clinical staff should be blinded hands down. Next, I would say the participants should be blinded. And the reason I would say that is because the participants work with the investigators on a daily basis. Maybe not daily. I mean, it depends on the protocol. It depends on what they're required to do. But they work with the investigators and the clinical staff more than any other person in the research spectrum. Therefore, I would say that the participants they're a close second, because I had a hard time deciding whether it should be investigators or slash clinical staff or participants, and I eventually went with investigators, clinical staff as the first because they're the ones administering medication. They're the ones going to the IWRS system and assigning treatments to these individuals. So I think that it's imperative that they're blinded, but it's just as imperative that the participants are blinded too, because their responses, if they were to know what they were received, they can easily relay that information to the investigator or clinical staff, and it would make the blinding redundant and unnecessary and completely reduce what we're trying to prevent, the influence of bias. So I think that they would be a very, very close second. They should be blinded above all else. Next, I would say it would be the MRI investigative staff, those that are reading the results. And their their reactions to the results could influence the patient, could, inform the patient of what they've received based on their reactions, and then in turn could inform the investigator, and it could be just this revolving cycle, and it would completely, like I said before, reduce the entire efforts of what we're trying to do with blinding. So I think that it's important that they would be blinded as well. However, they're not directly involved with the selection of patients, the administration of IP, and such like that. So not necessarily as important as the investigators slash clinical staff and patients. Lastly, I would say the last group, number 4, to be blinded, or out of the necessity to be blinded, would be the statisticians. And the reason I say the statisticians is because they work behind the scenes primarily. They don't interact with patients, they don't interact with the pharmacy, they don't interact with the investigators. They simply look at the data and analyze what's given to them. While blinding will definitely help reduce the bias in this, it's not as pertinent as it is with the other 3 that we just previously talked about. So those are my rankings. If anybody has any suggestions, or can provide any kind of feedback that would maybe help me adjust this or see it in a different way, I would greatly appreciate that. I look forward to talking about this with all of you, and I thank you for taking the time to view this video. And again, I apologize that it had to be in video format as opposed to written text, but this is the best I can do right now, so I do appreciate that. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.